That's a rocket.
The Eye in Big Trouble in Little Chinatown features adult themes, language, and situations. Discretion is advised. 以成人为主题，语言跟情况小心。
Crime may like to hide in the shadows, but it can never really hide from the eye.
Hello, friends. Today's thrilling and adventurous episode of The Eye is brought to you by Lady Business Cosmetics. When you want your complexion to be perfection, this Squidbeak Communications subsidiary has you covered, rouged, lipsticked, and mascaraed. Whether it's a night out on the town or just a private evening at home with the mister, our long-lasting, bright, vivid colors and new spiral brushes give you everything you could ask for and more. It's hard not to smile when you've got lady business on your face. And now, WK Nut proudly presents everyone's favorite one-eyed 5-0, The Eye in Big Trouble in Little Chinatown.
Deep beneath the MNYPD headquarters, south of the artillery room and just north of the Earth's core, you'll find the morgue. The chancellor of this kingdom is one Dr. Herbert West. Bright blonde hair, bespectacled, and the only pure-blooded human on the force. His way of thinking, though, something otherworldly about it. He covers his genius up with a couple layers of sarcasm and a bath and aftershave. Where most of the humans of Manhattan live in the 8 hours of daylight and give the 16 hours of night to the monsters, he fits right in with the creepy crawlers. A credit to his species. So an eyeless wonder and a one-eyed copper walk into a basement to talk to a madman.
Detective Caine. And guest?
Doctor, this is my partner for the night.
I am here with the police department.
She's a bit of a fibber.
I don't even know how to respond to that. And where am I supposed to look when I talk to you? Mysteries, mysteries. So I assume you're here to look at the body of our Jane Doe, yeah?
Got a name. Gian.
All right then, John Doe, whatever. So, autopsy is going to be a little bit, difficult.
And like being reacquainted with a long-lost friend, there she was. Our naked, broken China doll.
Notice anything unusual, off, strange, bizarre, weird?
It's a dead body.
Right, that's why you're the detective. Look here, right here, there's an incision. See it? Right there beneath the chin. Right above the sternocleidomastoid. It's innervated by the accessory nerve, right there. The spot above the collarbone in between the chin.
I don't see it.
It's there, obviously, just very tiny, very precise.
Like a needle prick or something?
Not exactly.
The good doctor reached toward the deceased's neck and gently seized hold of a barely visible filament. What the hell is that?
Silk. She was sewn up with it. Expertly.
What was sewn up? And like a magician doing his signature trick, West pulled a thread. A thread that traveled the length of the girl and unraveled her, opening her up like a book. Straight down the middle she was bifurcated, from neck to groin, in one fell swoop and one gentle tug of a string.
That was not impressive.
Notice anything missing, Detective?
My appetite.
There's nothing inside her. She's been hollowed out. No organs, no veins, nothing of the interior. Most of the muscle has even been removed. And her bone marrow. It's been wholly removed. It's as if she's been harvested.
And no one noticed this before she came to you?
Do they ever? She was sewn taut, young enough where the lack of weight seemed, understandable. But this is crazy, even for me, and we both know that's saying something. It's gonna be hard, to say the least, to tell what the cause of death was.
Impossible?
I didn't say that, but I also didn't not say that.
Herbert had this trick, something he did off the books to get to the bottom of cases sometimes. Helpful, even if it was a little questionable in the ethics department. You think you could do that thing? His eyes darted to my dance partner, worried that Mommy and Daddy were talking too adult with the kids in the room. Don't worry about her. She won't see a thing.
You want me to do the thing?
The thing.
She doesn't have a heart.
So...
She doesn't have anything. She's empty. She's just like a bag that you would put stuff in, but there's no stuff in it. That one is probably impossible.
No need to get worked up.
Her brainstem has been completely destroyed, and there are entire sections of her gray matter that are missing. They're missing.
It was just a question.
It was a weird question. I don't even know how you thought that was possible.
I don't know your process. I was just asking.
It's been a weird day.
Understood. Find out what you can. Let me know when you have something.
Yeah. Hey, if you happen to find any stray cats, they don't have to be alive or...
What?
What?
Just pass the silk on to the lab. Have them run analysis, and let's see what we can find out about it.
Yeah, will do. Yeah. Sorry for the
No need.
cats.
Oh.
Pleasure to meet you, noseless creepy lady.
I do not find you interesting.
Thanks.
Herbert had been like a tea kettle, blowing off a little steam. But in the long run, that's how you get your cup filled. If there was anyone I could trust, it would be him. But Silk... The China doll had been hollowed out like a pumpkin on Halloween. For what purpose? Why the attempt to hide it? Instead of solving the case, I'd come back from summer vacation to a pop quiz. A lot of guessing, and for the most part, just a lot of unanswered questions.
Detective Caine?
Yeah,
The captain said he'd like to see you in his office.
thanks, Blair. Tell him I'll be right in.
Sure thing.
The captain's secretary was a witchy woman that kept to herself most of the time. Head down to the books and ear to the pavement. No nonsense. And I always thought she'd make a hell of a detective herself. Never could understand why she didn't pursue it. For example, she detected that the featureless femme fatale with me wasn't on the payroll. It was a quick glance, but Blair was a quick thinker. She caught me before Helsing could see my sightless guide. Not that it would have been a world war, but I tend to have a tendency of not going by protocol. Blair may have saved me some hassle this time around. As rude as it sounds, why don't you go wait in the car for me, doll? Police business and all.
I will be in your car, taking it for a spin.
That better be a lie.
Detective, have a seat.
Helsing was a mountain of a man. No Dai Fu Ling, but I've never seen a mountain that big either. I don't know how long he had been the captain of the MNYPD. Vampire half-breeds don't really show their age, save in their musical tastes. But he was a good cop, and a good vampire. That made Chinatown a dangerous hellspot for him. Whereas Fu Manchu ruled most of what your eyes could see, the Chinese vampire clan ruled everything you couldn't, and those Chinese bloodsuckers didn't much care for their European counterparts. The Jiangxi and the Draco families had been at war for centuries, and I'll bet you can guess which one our half-breed chief carried a membership card for.
Where we at in the Chinatown case?
Can't get anywhere because we're taking too many left turns. The girl's name was Jian, approximately 21 years of age, farm girl, came here 6 months ago to work at the docks. Don't know who brought her, don't know where she lived, haven't determined the cause of death yet, and that's all due to a bad case of missing all of her organs. She was emptied out like a bank account on Christmas, then sewed back together with silk.
With silk?
West running it over to the lab.
Did he do the thing?
He said he couldn't. There wasn't enough there to work with. You also might want to consider giving the man a vacation. He seems a little on edge.
Nobody gets any vacations till we solve this. Last thing we need is a turf war on our hands. A cold war between vampires and between Fu and the Hoppers is bad enough. But it looks like things are getting worse.
Because of the girl.
The note they found. Got the translation. It says, in Chinese, the Yakuza have no place in Chinatown. Their so-called Kumicho, which is like...
Their leader.
Yeah, their leader. Their so-called Kumicho is a heathen and a disgrace. Susanoo must be driven from our lands and into the sea where he belongs. Remember our oaths.
Triads.
The Yakuza's encroaching on Chinatown? Why have we not heard about this?
Don't know. How would a Chinese farm girl be tied up in all of this?
Maybe it was one of their girlfriends or a daughter or something. Somebody who double-crossed the Triad. A Chinese spy for the Yakuza?
Maybe any of those things. I understood rivalry. I could understand its motivations and its workings. I'd grown up with a big sister, so I knew all about squabbles. Fu Manchu and the Jiangxi butted heads because Fu and his company Sifan represented an integrated way of life for the Chinese. The Jiangxi were more traditional. The Jiangxi didn't get along with the rest of the vampire clans because they thought they should be the dominant tribe of bloodsuckers. The Yakuza and the Triad didn't get along because each was looking out for their own. Self-preservation and self-advancement. Most of the fights in the world happen because you're protecting something or someone that you consider to be your own. But just like me and my sister fighting over who got to ride in the front seat, it could get nasty. Still, there were boundaries. For a generation, the boundary of Chinatown had been a hard one. The Yakuza didn't come into the Triad's territory, and the Triad didn't go into theirs. Why would that change? What did the lipstick-wearing naked girl have to do with any of this? A lot of questions to answer. But the first was where I should take my featureless partner. Do you want me to take you back to Jiao's?
My services have helped you solve the case?
It's not solved yet, but that's right. A little bit of a lie. You've done good work, Dame, and you're more than welcome to be the tick on this bloodhound as long as you'd like. But if you have somewhere to go or be...
Perhaps I have nowhere to be.
Then I suppose I'll hold on to you for a little bit longer. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw her smirk. She smiled a lot for a mysterious woman, but I suppose you work with what little you have. I wondered, could those smiles be lies too? You live in Chinatown?
Of course not.
Jiao's Tea House. It has quite a few non-reputable people visit, or at least I hear.
Non-reputable people have a detest for tea.
With all of that detesting going on around you, have you ever heard any whispers of the Yakuza trying to encroach on the Triad's territory?
I have not.
A coin toss. 50-50. If she was lying about the knot, then she had. If she was lying about the had, then she hadn't. I was a sailor trying to find due north from a black sky. That part of the mystery, the gang war part, that was going to be a hard knot to unravel. What about the silk? What do you make of that?
Because I am Chinese, I should know of silk the same way you, as an American, should know of hot dogs.
Fair point.
Mulberry leaves are toxic, but to the silkworm and those who eat it. Spiders can be very dangerous when captured, and even more dangerous when left to roam free.
My cryptic friend was giving me a headache. Sorting through riddles is sort of my job, but just because I'm a professional doesn't mean I'm an expert. Sifan Tower was our next stop. Our next guest for the late show was one Dr. Fu Manchu, supposedly upstanding citizen, billionaire entrepreneur, and most powerful man in Chinatown. His power didn't intimidate me. But just like your electricity at home, if you want power, there's going to be a few shocks somewhere. Seldom do people make it to the top and stay clean. As we drove through the city to that towering skyscraper, I couldn't help but feel this case was going to show me how dirty Manchu really was.
Dr. Fu Manchu will see you now.
It was easy enough to get into the ivory tower of Sifan. My badge had served like a skeleton key and was opening almost every door. We were barely in the lobby long enough to catch our breath by the time Manchu's assistant led us into the conference room. It was a grandiose scene. Fireplace, chandelier, and a table with more polish than a butler's manners. Karamina, the assistant with cinnamon Egyptian skin and the body of an Olympic runner, walked to the end of said table, and there he was, dressed in a suit that must have been tailored by a god. If you thought you were a successful person, looking at him would make you reevaluate.
Detective Caine.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Please, call me Doctor. Actually, we've met once before, a charity ball a few years ago. And of course, your reputation precedes you.
Likewise.
我很高兴你在我家。
我看过好一点的家，但是谢谢你。
Please take a seat.
My apologies that this isn't quite a social visit.
No, I understand. Karamena says you're here about a missing persons case.
Yes, we are here for that.
Really? If not missing person, then what is it?
Like an actor memorizing the stage directions, Manchu was proving he could read between the lines. He had Little Miss Crosstalk's number in a way that even the phone book didn't. Homicide.
Oh my. The girl they found at Pearl of the East.
One and the same.
Oh my. I heard there was a body. A female, but I'm afraid I only heard rumors. What exactly can I help you with?
You can start by taking a look. Tell me if you recognize the girl. I tossed the pictures from across the table, and they landed in front of the businessman like a plate being served for supper. One was a headshot we had copied from Dai Fu Ling, and the other was the dead shot we had gotten from the scene of the crime. As he looked over them, there was something in his face. Something I thought looked an awful lot like recognition.
I'm sorry, I don't see dead bodies often. She looks so young. Poor thing.
And now she'll never age another day. In came the assistant, carrying with her a teapot and 3 glasses. She set them in the middle of the table, but I noticed her eyes ventured a little further than that. Her face lit up with a glimpse of the crime scene, like a person who saw something they knew they weren't supposed to. Manchu turned the photos over, both of them. I couldn't tell if it was for her sake, his stomach's, or from guilt.
Thank you, Karamena.
Will that be all, sir?
I believe so. Tea, while we converse?
My throat is dry. The tea might damage it further.
And you, Detective?
I normally take it with 2 lumps of sugar.
Very well. 2 cups of tea.
Beside where he sat, there was a pile of paper. Looked plain enough. Plain, bland, white stacks of it. He grabbed one piece and he ripped it in half. And like tossing a sheet over a king-sized, he threw the scraps towards us. In the middle of the air, it was as if they had forgotten they were pieces of paper. Arms, legs, heads sprouted. Suddenly 2 little gingerbread men made out of parchment landed on the table and got quick to work.
Zerlen, paper people. Loyal and hard workers. Saves a fortune on staffing.
As the stationary waiters brought us our drinks, they gave a little bow and fell flat on the table, lifeless. No longer looking like men, but like their origins. 2 ripped halves of paper. Like the whole thing had been a parlor trick or the vision of a drunk. It's employees I want to talk to you about. The dead girl in front of you's name was Jian. She came here 6 months ago to work at the docks.
My docks.
You're a smart man. I bet you can use that intelligence to predict what my next few questions might be.
I can. I didn't know her, Detective. As you can assume, I have a plethora of people that are ostensibly under my employment. Seafawn is merely an umbrella corporation with almost 25 subsidiaries in Chinatown alone, not to mention our national and international holdings. I don't hire everyone, and I didn't hire her. But my assistant can give you the name of the subsidiary that did.
Makes sense. What's your connection to the triads?
Excuse me?
I don't think I stuttered, Doctor. Did I stutter, doll?
Horribly. I'm embarrassed for you.
So if by chance you didn't hear me, Doctor, let me reiterate in a different form. You're rich, you're powerful, you own half of Chinatown. In my experience, the richer and more powerful and bigger you stand, the more shadows you cast. Shady spots you might not like to talk about.
My connection to the triads ends at a shared heritage. Contrary to your experience, I, for one, do not travel nor work in those sorts of circles.
And the Yakuza?
I assume I need not repeat myself.
I wager you know what assuming makes of both of us. So no rivalry with the Japanese.
My wife is Japanese.
So maybe a little rivalry. My first intention in all of this was to get some answers. My second, with that little jab, was to get a reaction. And the one he gave me was a little smirk. He was lying to me about something, but not this. But you do have some rivals, don't you?
The Jiangshi, the Chinese vampires. It is a rivalry of worldviews. The idea of wearing rice hats and only speaking our native tongue and closing off to the outside world is euphonic to them. To me, on the other hand, progress and sustainability come from advancement, exploration, adoption of ideas, never abandoning what once was, but embracing what now is. The future of the Chinese people in this country has to be one that acknowledges what this country has to offer. America the Mei Li, I tell my daughter, a marriage of our cultures.
From the ornate lobby of Seafon back to the streets of New York. It was like going from the 4th of July to Christmas. We had left the great and powerful Oz with a better sense of who he was and the name of his subsidiary company that actually ran the docks, Pan Long. I'd go to see them tomorrow night. Tonight had been long enough, and I needed some time to mull over everything. Try to connect the dots. Plus, I figured I'd be a good date and get my eyeless Candy home before her bedtime. She lived in a high-rise off of Eldridge. Swanky little building. Took me a while to find it, but only because she wasn't much for straight talk. Nice place you have here.
Its affordability compensates for what it lacks.
Yeah, I bet. Look, thanks again for your help tonight.
I am happy to fulfill my duty as a police officer.
She gave me a smile. I say gave it to me because it felt like a present, one I could hold on to for a while. I'll have to stop by Diao sometime and fill you in on the case.
I am sorry I will be seeing you soon.
And with that, she turned and left. My eye lingered on her for a while. Trying to solve that mystery? I don't think the best of detectives could do that. If she was lying about being sorry, then she would be seeing me. If she was lying about that, then she was sorry that she wouldn't. I must have stayed there, fixated on her for a few moments longer than I'd care to admit, or otherwise I would have noticed the footsteps behind me. I didn't, though. I only noticed them once they stopped.
We have been waiting for you.
Oh, have you? Well, forgive my tardiness. I turned ever so slightly just to get a glimpse of what was lurking behind. 2 men, suits and tattoos. One bald and covered head to toe with ink. The other, the mouthpiece, long hair pulled back in a ponytail, and a red right hand covered in scales. And you are?
Of no importance. Our master would like to have a word with you.
Oh, Woody. One thing I've learned in my life is that anytime someone tells you they want to have words with you, you can bet your bottom dollar some of those words are going to be the aggressive type. Whether they hurt your feelings or your kidneys, that's dependent on the situation. All I knew, these two had weapons and bad intentions on them, and I wasn't in a talking mood. My fist connected with the jaw of the first one, but the bald guy hit like a sack of bricks. Wasn't the hardest hit I'd ever taken, but I wasn't keen on going back for seconds. I had to change my game plan, but I wasn't giving up. I started to charge toward the walking canvas when all of a sudden... There are very few things that can stop me dead in my tracks. Apparently, a samurai sword pressed to my throat is one of those things.
Tune in next week to see how the monster sleuth gets out of this mess.
Crime may like to hide in the shadows, but it can never really hide from the eye.
The Eye in Big Trouble in Little Chinatown is brought to you by Bean Dip Productions and the Neighborhood Studio. The Eye is recorded at the Neighborhood Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. That's a rocket.